I wasn't kidding when I meant slight.
No, it's recording.
Is it recording? Alright, hi everyone. Good morning. Have y'all's attention? Hello everyone. Thank you all very much for coming today to our high school options and KMag meeting. I want to go ahead and get us started because we have a lot of people up here. We've got some parents up here, and there are also parents out here that have kids in high school that will be able to step in and ask. I'm going to go right into our, once again, I've said this in the past, through a number of requests, we do have a video that we take of this and then make available. So just be aware that any questions you ask will be available, and they may not see who you are, but they will hear that. And I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that before I record it. Hey, Kathy. So we're going to go straight into, are you ready for the principal? Sure, okay. We're going to go straight into Ms. Lowe, who's going to give us our principal's report.
And we're trying to get about 10 more chairs down here. Don't you love an intimate group?
Yes.
Much better. Thank y'all for being flexible and moving in here for us. We've got an emergency preparation in-service that we're doing with all of the teachers all day today during the first 45 minutes of their conference period. And we needed that bigger space to do some role-playing. Just to remind our teachers about what emergency, in light of what's been happening, we want to make sure that everybody is as well equipped as they can be to deal with an emergency. Also, I just wanted to let you know that we will be interviewing for the magnet director position next Wednesday. We have several really good applicants that I've gotten really good feedback about, so I'm excited about that. Anything else going on that I should mention? Don't forget, we've been having some transportation issues, but we did add that you can drop off on that north side of Pennsylvania. But we do ask that you make sure that your kids are walking to the crosswalk and crossing safely so they're not crossing in front of cars or buses without somebody crossing them. I think that's it. Do y'all have any questions for me? Our goal for the magnet director position hasn't changed. Hopefully we'll be able to get somebody on board at the start of the second semester. Okay, that's the goal. All right, thank you guys so much. I'll have an awesome time and have fun discussing high schools.
And I have a few agendas which I haven't gotten to handing out, but just a couple things. I didn't know Ms. Rainberg has been visiting just a tremendous number. Her life has been filled with visiting elementary schools, and I thought she was visiting today, but it looks like she's not. So if you'd like to come up and give an update, that'd be great.
Just real quickly, we are visiting elementary schools, but I'm really fortunate because I'm not doing it alone for the building management program. Jenna Martin is also visiting schools, and so she's going on schools that are opposite, going on visits on the days that are opposite for teaching schedule. She teaches on 8 days, so she's out recruiting on these days. And it's going very well. It's pretty interesting to see. There has been a lot of transition, a lot of changes in the whole recruiting thing since I started. When I started, we used to all go independently, each of the schools that were recruiting, Fillmore and Richards and Keelan, and we'd have an hour with the kids, and we'd answer lots of questions, mostly about lockers and cafeteria and that kind of, and when can I play sports. So, not answering questions hasn't been that much of a problem. But now, instead of an hour, we each have 20 minutes with the school. And another interesting thing that has happened is, in the time since I started doing this, is that feeder schools are also coming. So yesterday, instead of the traditional, I present and then Fillmore and Richard, Murkison was there as well. So it's become more competitive actually, and I think it's healthy. Kids are hearing about schools earlier. Of course, the feeder schools still have a huge advantage in the sense that they also have the kids coming on the whole class automatically comes to the school, you know, and staff gets to see the traditional middle school things that kids are really excited about, you know, the cheerleaders cheering for them in the band, playing and that kind of thing. Hence, this is why our showcase is so important for us. So, anyway, that's mostly what's happening, though, is our mind on getting a really good class for next year.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Ramberg? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this back up front. This is probably going to make everybody who's watching it nervous. So now I'm going to get into the portion. Everybody hopefully has gotten the handout. Sandra Marks has put this together. The first thing we want to make sure everyone is understanding is this was put together from parents. She called a bunch of the different schools to get the information, so it's not like she made up the information. But it is an official document that's been produced by anyone other than parents here. And it lists all the variety by school options. You want to go through it real quick, Sandra?
I just tried to put everything that's available in the district so that everybody would have it in one place. It's just because I'm a person who likes to have a piece of paper. So that's why. And pretty much it's self-explanatory. The ones at the top are all of the neighborhood schools that you can attend based on where you live. The next section is the various programs that are available in the district by application. Obviously, not all of those are going to apply to your kids, but I just wanted to put them all so everybody could see everything. And then there's a section about students who are at Keeling in the magnet program who do not live in the Keeling neighborhood zone district. If you've attended Keeling for 7th and 8th grade, you are eligible to apply for a tracking transfer to McCallum, which is considered a priority transfer. They generally do approve them. Even though it will come out and say that McCallum is frozen, they generally do approve the tracking transfers anyway. But you have to make sure that you apply for that tracking transfer in the time period that they will post in January. If you do it late, even if it's tracking, they'll say it's too late and they won't approve it because they're frozen. And then there's some other types of transfers. I'm not really going to go into all that. You can read that if you want there. And there's a website that goes to the AISD website about transfers. And then on the back, I just contacted the 3 main programs that kind of come up for Keeling students: the IB program at Anderson High School, Lassa, and the McCallum Fine Arts Academy. The information isn't necessarily consistent from one area to the other because it's just based on what feedback I got from those directors and principals. So that's all that's there. Global studies, if you look on the section at the very beginning where it talks about based on your home address, there is a note that the Global Studies program is only available to students who are zoned in Austin High's district. It's not a program that you can apply to from anywhere in the district and get into.
I had heard you could transfer into it.
No, you cannot apply to that program and then transfer to Austin High. If you are on an approved transfer to Austin High, like a sibling transfer, or for some other reason you are approved to be at Austin High, you can apply for the Global Studies program. But it's not, Ms. Malloy actually wanted me to make that clear because she's had several students tell her, I'm applying to Global Studies and I'm moving to Austin High. Like, no, you can't. That's not an option unless you are tracked to Austin High or for some other reason are on an approved transfer to Austin High. So that's why it's not listed under the application programs or on the back. I didn't bother to seek out more information from them. So that's, we made more, Ms. Gonzalez made more, and I think we're out again. We can try to.
That's the minute.
Okay.
Actually, would you mind
Here, I have the originals.
I think that's the
Here,
minutes.
it's 2 pages. So from, I guess, how many need a copy?
I'll do 50.
Okay. So, that's just a brief overview. There are a lot of options for our kids, which we're really, really fortunate about. And what we just did, this is just an informal group, so you can talk to parents who are in the various programs. We have Amy War, who has a child in McCallum High School. We have Mark Walters, who has a child in Anderson IB program in the Lassa High School. We've got Sandra Marks, who has a daughter in Lassa High School, and we've got Gabriel Estrada, who has the Global Studies at Austin High. I've asked each one of them if they would just go through and just give a brief example, just briefly talk about why their child chose the program and what their child's experience was. Amy has told me some really interesting information about McCallum that I didn't know. which I'm sure she's gonna pass on to you. You know, one of them being that they had the second most number of, what was it, AP?
Oh, that they, at least a couple, when my daughter applied, they had the greatest percentage of kids, second to Lassa, they had the greatest number of kids passing AP exams.
Which I, is really interesting. So anyway, when if each one of y'all, the parents would give, actually, and also raise your hand, who has a child currently in high school? So we have a lot of them. If you just go through real quickly and say where they're at.
I have a graduate from Lassa and one currently at Lassa. 10th grader at Lassa. 10th grader at Lassa.
Okay. Who else?
10th grader at Anderson.
At Anderson, in the IB program, just at Anderson?
Well, you go into the IB program your junior year, she's
Oh,
going to
okay, I
apply
didn't
now.
Lassa.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? McCallum?
Lassa.
Lassa? Global Studies at Austin High. So we do have a pretty good representation, and thank you all, and feel free to speak up. Hopefully, after we go through the brief introduction, we'll have some questions. I don't know, Amy, you want to go ahead and start?
Oh, sure, and I'll just say that my daughter's a sophomore, and so there's someone here whose daughter is a senior, so I'm sure she can speak more. I was saying I tend to know as much as I have had the experience so far, so, mine is only partial. But so my daughter went to Keeling, and we let her make the decision of where she wanted to go to high school, so as far as I can say about why she did it, the mind of a 14-year-old, I think she, although she enjoyed Keeling, I think she was a little burnt out and a little ready to, just thought that she would not like to have the same level of pressure and work for the whole high school time. So, and even though, all her friends went to Lassa, she still said, I don't think that's the place for me, I need to go to McCallum, and she loves it. And there's plenty of rigor available. To me, the AP, the pre-AP classes are extremely rigorous. Definitely lots of hard work. So, and a lot of kids seem to do a mixture of the AP and the non-AP.
Just out of curiosity, was McCallum your feeder school?
No.
Okay.
Transfer. And if anyone needs to know about the transfer program, my kids have used it throughout elementary, of course not for Keeling, but then for, so so if you think you need it, or you're interested in it, definitely go to the AISD website and look at it. And I know a lot about it, and I will also add to that I sit on the Boundary Advisory Committee for AISD, and there's a facilities planning group that is very active right now because of the failure of the bonds for new schools, and something that's always in play is changing the transfer policy. So I would just keep an eye on that. If you think your kid is going to need the transfer policy, keep your eye on it, or I keep my eye on it, so you can ask me.
And the transfers, the busing isn't applicable to transfers.
Right.
Busing does not apply.
Yeah.
The busing
You're responsible
applies to
for.
Lassa. Of all the schools we've talked about, Lassa only, correct?
If
For high
it's a
school.
magnet, if it's a, I think it's because it's a
Lassa is the
magnet.
only, the Fine Arts Academy at McCallum is not
Not a
eligible for
magnet,
transportation.
right.
The IB program is not eligible for transportation, unless you live in the Anderson.
Right.
district,
So that's
yeah.
a whole nother
Lassa is the only
complicated
high
deal.
school that offers transportation.
And does your child do the Fine Arts Academy?
Off the grants, like every year that our daughter has been at Lassa.
I'm sorry?
That issue of providing transportation for Lassa has been up the grants every year that our daughter, Mrs. Senior, has been there because of the budget cuts. So because of that reason, no other magnet provided transportation. So
I think it's not as much right now. I think in the past it has been. There's another organization that's sort of taken the charge of keeping an eye on those kinds of district level issues and advocating to maintain that transportation. But yes, it's whenever they talk about budget cuts, sure, that's going to come up.
Well, and let's be clear, the issue has always been to take it away from Lassa, not to add it to.
No, the issue has been budget cuts, yes, to cut
So we're
transportation.
not talking about making schools more accessible.
No.
Right, and if anyone's interested in, the group that Sandra mentioned is called Advanced Academic Advocates
Magnet.
Advanced.
AAMA.
A lot of A's.
Anyway,
And they advocate for magnets.
They don't have a website, but they're an amazing group of people, and they know a lot. And so if you're interested in becoming involved at all, it's not a big commitment thing, but you get lots of information and you can help out with this. It's a great group. And I'll say one more thing that I want to make sure I say, and is that for the Fine Arts Academy, there's no, if you have if you're in the McCallum area or you can get a transfer to McCallum, there's really no advantage to applying for the Fine Arts Academy because you can take all the classes. If you're just in regular McCallum, you can take all the classes that the Fine Arts Academy kids get to take.
Really?
Yeah,
You have a
and-
senior,
and
is
so-
that also true? You're, who are the senior in McCallum?
In the back.
So that's also true in the senior year?
It is true, just the only advantage in fine arts, my daughter is doing orchestra, or wants to do cello, so if you're in Fine Arts Academy, you're required by the Fine Arts, so I guess not a certificate, but whatever it is, you have to go audition for all state and these things, but if you are not in fine arts, you can still do that.
Right, so basically, if you're in fine arts, you have more requirements, but really no
Right,
advantage.
more fine arts requirements.
Exactly, for instance, in band, my daughter was, so she was in band, so she could have applied for fine arts, but she decided just to go regular on a transfer because she would have had to take, it's a year of piano and a semester of music theory, and she wasn't really interested in that, so she decided to go regular. There was a question over here, though.
Yeah, can we also have start times in the discussion? I'm curious, because they all seem to be starting at different times.
Oh, McCallum starts at 9 and ends at 4:15.
But if you do marching band, they have to be there between 6:45
crack
and
of
7 in the
dawn.
morning.
If
They
what?
do their 6:45 and 7 in the morning for marching
They have to be
band.
there.
Start times for McCallum?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
9 o'clock to
Okay.
4:15.
But you have to be there at 6:45 if you do.
For marching band, they do their marching band practice before school.
Mine wasn't a question,
But that's
I
called
think, but I'm not
SPE.
sure, so people check on this.
If you do
For in terms
marching
of the
band,
fine
it's
arts,
called
isn't it
SPE.
that if you're not in the academy, you're not as high on the list, like if a class is filled or something like that, like you're higher on the list if you're.
I think that only applies to that piano and music theory
Oh,
those
okay.
last 2 years. Everything else is pretty much, at least for band.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and that's
Other
really the
strands,
limit
I
of
don't
my
know.
knowledge as
Visual
well.
arts and dance maybe more, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when we visited the dance program, it seemed like there were some dance classes that were specifically for academy students. I don't have a student there yet, so I don't know for sure. That was-
Yeah, no, my knowledge is definitely limited to band. If someone asked that question at the, specifically, what advantage is there, and they said none.
Okay, and we can always come back and ask questions. I want to make sure we just get through all of them, and then we'll come back and open up to questions. I've got Mark Walters. He's got 2 children, one at Anderson IB and Lassa. Do you want to just give a brief overview?
Sure, and since Sandra's here, I won't talk as much about. I will let her do more to covering Lassa. My oldest daughter is a senior in the Anderson IB program. The honest truth is we made her apply to Lassa as well, so she would have that opportunity. It seems like every year, and I have a son who's a sophomore at Lassa, and I have a daughter who's an 8th grader at Keeling. And it seems like every year, for reasons known only to teenagers, there are different levels of interest in different schools. And her year, there were a lot of kids, especially a lot of girls in her peer group that were interested in Anderson. Her particular reason for going there was that she wanted to be an Anderson Trojan Belle. Not on a dance team, not on a dance team somewhere, she wanted to be a Trojan Belle, and nothing else would do.
And is she?
She is. She is the first lieutenant of Detroit, so if you ever see them play, you'll see her at halftime. But sure. Let me try to be brief. The IB program is different depending on whether you are zoned for Anderson or not. If you're zoned for Anderson, you don't do the IB program doesn't start until the kids are a junior. So if you're zoned for Anderson, you just go to Anderson and then you apply for the program when you're a sophomore. When Katie applied, although we live in the Anderson district now, we didn't then. And so when she applied, you make a commitment to take pre-AP classes and take the kinds of classes you would need to get accepted, and then you're accepted into the program as a 9th grader, although you're not actually doing anything for IB until the program gets going as a junior. It is pretty intense their junior year because they have. Do y'all know what the IB program is?
No.
Is it I'm sorry. IB is short for International Baccalaureate. It's a standardized international curriculum that I was told was originally created for the children of diplomats and other people who worked all over the world so that universities and colleges would know if these kids had the IB high school degree, they had a standardized curriculum even if they went to high school in Uganda, Zimbabwe, Texas, wherever. They've all done the same curriculum, and they know, the colleges and universities know what they've learned coming in. So it is, I think it's run out of Switzerland, and there's a standard program that they have to go through. And it's somewhat similar to AP in the sense that you take these classes in various subjects, and then you have to choose subjects that you're going to test in. And the tests that they take are in a broad way similar to AP, but it's much more focused on critical thinking. It's much more focused on essay writing. And some of the classes, I know my daughter said that, for example, the IB history class is taught much differently than the AP history, and the test that you take for IB history is much different. She took the SA2 subject test in history, and she said it was very different from the IB test. The AP and SAT tests are much more focused on when did stuff happen, what was this, when did this happen, what was the Whiskey Rebellion, that kind of thing, where the IB test was much more critical thinking about things that happened in history and how did that affect things that happened after that, how does that affect our daily life. Depending on the demand, some of the AP and IB classes at Anderson are the exact same class. I mean, it is the same class. You meet in the same classroom, and the teacher just tries to prepare them for both tests. And a lot of kids take both the AP test and the IB test. Where there's enough demand, the classes are physically separate. So you might have the IB English 4 meeting in one room with one syllabus, and AP English 4 meeting in another room with another syllabus, and learning different things geared to the test they're going to take at the end. I tell you that because it took me 3 months of constant questioning to finally extract that information from my daughter. I think that the IB program definitely keeps kids from getting senioritis. It is very demanding, their senior year. They have to take a class as a junior called Theory of Knowledge. That's a required class. And then as seniors, they have to write what almost amounts to like sort of and I know some colleges have a senior thesis requirement. They have to write a paper. I don't have a tremendous amount of information about the specifics of what's going on with this research project other than how horrible it is and how much it's ruining my daughter's senior year. But I know it takes a lot of time, and they also have they have to continue to be prepared for these classes, take these exams, so she's really not been able to sort of be in cruise control. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't there also like there's 2 levels of IB? There's like full-blown IB, which is called one thing, where you have to do everything. And then, do you remember hearing about this at all? Because we're in the feeder.
Right.
Take IB classes and not be in the program.
Yeah, and that's in flux. There's a thing called, there used to be and may still be a thing called IB certificate.
Yeah.
And you could only do IB certificate if you were zoned for Anderson. You can't transfer into Anderson. IB certificate was exactly like you said. You could take certain IB classes without committing to do the whole program. And so you didn't necessarily have to take theory of knowledge, which the kids call TOK. So if you hear Ms. Zabo, who's the director of the program, anybody talking about TOK, that's their theory of knowledge class. I don't think you have to do the service hours. You don't have to write the paper. They were going to do away with that last year. And it may have been to do with budget cuts. And then I heard they hadn't done away with it, and you could still take, but they might not do away with it next year. And I've lost track of whether they're still whether they're still doing the certificate program or not. Because we ended up moving into Anderson, but part of that was we said, okay, we're going to move here, but you are not allowed to drop out of this IB program. Yes?
Can you explain a little bit, like, what if your kid applies, does the IB program, and whatever international tests that are like the SAT, but if they're not passing them or they're not getting those marks, do you stay in the program? Is there any benefit in terms of, like, I mean, did your transcript say IB, but it's like
Failed the test.
failed the test? I mean, like, what's the
IB almost.
yeah, what's the deal? And it sounds like there's these tests every year, but maybe there's a bigger one in senior year. I'm a little
Sorry, well, and that's partly because the tests that you take are more, they're not like the SAT, they're more like the AP tests that the kids take when they take the AP class, and then you go take the test through an independent organization. The only difference, besides the fact that the structure of the test is somewhat different, the other difference is that the IB group itself administers the IB tests. My belief, although I caution you, I've never specifically checked this out. I mean, I think you do have to pass the test to get the IB diploma. And I think if you fail the test, I don't think there's any negative consequence from that. I don't think anything shows up. I don't actually know, but the way the program seems to work, I wouldn't think it would show up on your transcript that you failed the IB test.
It's kind of like taking an AP
It is.
class, and they don't say
You wouldn't get the college credit
Right.
for that.
There's no credit, and I think you have to, passing those tests, doing a satisfactory paper at the end of the year, doing your service project, those I think are all components of getting the IB diploma. And so what shows up on your transcript is that you got this IB diploma. And the fact that you got the diploma is what is different on your transcript from anybody else's transcript. And so you can take that anywhere in the world and go to, if you want to go to school in the UK or wherever, you can say, I got this IB diploma, and that means something to them.
I'm going to take one more question, then we're going to move on. Again, there'll be time to answer questions. I just want to make sure we get through everybody. So go ahead, the last question.
We have a kid at Lassa, so we're very familiar with that. But our younger daughter's interested in the IB. And is there a grading? I mean, how does the grading of that work? Like on the AP scores, you get 5, 3, 4, 2, 1 or whatever. But on the IB, you just get the certificate or you don't get a certificate, because in France, when they take the baccalaureate, they get a number score at the end that averages from all their IB from all their baccalaureate exams. They get a number score, and that matters really a lot. So does the IB work like that? That's going to be, it's just like you got it or you didn't, or is there some level, some compilation of what the level is at which they achieved in those classes?
You get it. It's not just that you passed, and I'm sorry if I gave that. You do get a number score. The grading, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to think about this. This has been explained to me, but it's complicated, and I haven't really been, I really haven't been that focused on it as long as we were passing everything and on track to get it. But there is they expect you to, the IB program internationally expects you to have mastered a certain body of information. And The international IB program looks at testing the way European schools look at testing, in that you're going to take this test, and this test is going to be your grade, and they grade it accordingly. That doesn't work at all well with U.S. schools, where you have all this other work that is supposed to factor into your grade point average. And double check on this, but I think that the score that you make on the exam factors into the grade that you get in that class for the classes that you choose to test for, but the teachers adjust your other grades upward so that the internationally scored exam is not dragging down your GPA. So it's not like you got this score on this test and you may have done really well in the class, but if they just graded it normally, you might be at a disadvantage for your Texas GPA. And I don't mean like you made a D on the test, but I mean just the way they grade them, you would be at a disadvantage from kids taking AP classes or kids taking regular classes. And so a lot of times the teachers in these IB classes will do homework grades, they'll do things so you have a certain number of 100s and high grades, so it kind of averages out. And I'm sorry, that's the best I can explain.
And you
that
really
part of it.
do agree.
Yeah.
Remember, these are just parents, they're answering from their experience. They want to ask about the Bell program. He's got on. I really do appreciate that. I'm going to go to
What time?
It starts at 9, but if you're in Bells, you almost never get to take advantage of that. Band and Bells and cross country all practice before school. And at Lassa, band practice is after school.
Cross country is before school.
I'm sorry?
At 4 o'clock or?
Around 4 o'clock, yeah. I'm not exactly sure.
Do they have swimming program?
Maybe
I
Mark
think
could,
so.
maybe Mark could just touch real briefly on just the process, since John ended up going to Lassa. I mean, you don't have to get into all the Lassa stuff, but just that process of how you ended up at 2 different high schools. 'Cause that may be an issue.
Compare, that's what I was interested in as well.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, although my daughter will bitterly argue this to the contrary, I mean, the homework load at Lassa is higher than it is at Anderson. The homework at Lassa is higher. I mean, there's more homework at Lassa. It's harder than Anderson, even if you're taking, because although my daughter's always complaining about how stressed out she was, I mean, her freshman and sophomore year, she seemed to have plenty of time to keep up with Gray's Anatomy and those sorts of things. I think that's evened out now that IB has kicked in. I mean, I think that the load of different things that she has to do is pretty comparable to what they're doing at Lassa, but it wasn't true in 9th and 10th grade when she was just at Anderson. And my son didn't know anyone that was going to Anderson, and all his friends were going to Lassa, and so he wasn't really interested in going to Anderson. I will say, though, I know people that this has happened to at Keeling, but it happens at Lassa, and it happened to my son. When he first applied, he got just a little thin rejection letter. Not a wait list, he just got a rejection letter, and he'd done well at Keeling, so we called, and they were very friendly, and they reran the numbers, and they figured out they'd made a mistake. And what had happened to him was he was absent on one STAR test day and missed it. And what they do when you do that is they go to your previous year and put that number in, but they didn't do that. They recorded a 0 on that. And so when they ran his numbers, they said, you don't get in. And so if you do, and I know a bunch of people, I know other people that's happened to at Lassa, and I know people that happened to at Keeling. So I just, word of caution, if your child applies and you get rejected and you think like, well, you know, they had all A pluses and they did this and that, you know, follow through on that. It's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's worthwhile. I've heard that happening as well, and it's always worthwhile, even if it just provides you information. You want to go ahead? We've got Sandra Marks who's going to talk about Lassa.
Yeah, I'll just briefly so that we can get to the rest of them and then open it up to questions. But my daughter is in 10th grade, and I will echo what Amy said. I only know up through like October, whatever, of 10th grade is all I can speak to about Lassa. We have other people here who have a lot more experience. But my daughter's process, you know, she came to Keeling and through 6th grade and 7th grade, even though I wasn't even thinking or talking about high school, she was like, I don't want to go to Lassa. I don't want to work that hard. I'm tired of working that hard. And then 8th grade comes along, and when it like rubber hits the road and it's reality, you know, and she went to the road show, which was here last night. Some of you might have been there. And we left the road show, and she's like, I want to go to Lassa. I'm like, okay, you know, it's an organic thing, like you said, teenagers and who can really get into what goes on in their mind with that kind of stuff. And I do think there is something cyclical with the groups every year and kind of what happens in the group. But she went to the showcase and she went to and shadowed and she was pretty well set on it. She did apply to the IB program, and we did go to, they do have a parent meeting for the IB program, and they do have an evening session where the kids can go and learn about it. And my daughter's very organized and analytical, and she took all the stuff and compared all the programs and decided that, you know, Lassa is pretty freshman, sophomore heavy. You have signature courses that you're required to take that are double blocked. You pretty much have one elective. If you're lucky enough to have taken 2 years of foreign language here and you take your third year, your freshman year, you get a second elective your sophomore year, which is really exciting. But things really open up your junior and senior year. You have a lot more flexibility to pick electives and things like that. And IB is sort of the opposite. Freshman and sophomore year kind of doing a regular thing. You have quite a few electives. Junior and senior year very heavy with the IB required courses. And so that was a factor for her. She wanted to have more flexibility her junior and senior year. And really for Hannah, I think it came down to like more of her friends were going to Lassa, and Anderson is so primarily a neighborhood school, and we were not from that neighborhood and would not have known as many people, and that didn't feel as comfortable to her. Lassa's been great for Hannah. I think what's fabulous about the options that are available for high school compared to, I think, the options for middle school and AISD are very, very limited, I think. But high school, there's a lot of great options out there, and it's just what your kid, like what fits for them and the environment that they want and what they're going to be happy at. There are so many good options for them. For my daughter, Lassa has been the best place. Like, she has flourished and thrived there in a way that she never even did here, even though she loved Keeling. It's just, she has a great core group of friends. She's very active and involved, and she just loves it. And you know, Ms. Krasinski even said last night, like, the kids all love each other. Like, they really do. It's like it's a really great environment for that kind of thing. And so for her, it has been great. You've heard about, I mean, they have a lot of academics, there's a lot of homework. I will say, again, just speaking from our experience, having gone to Keeling, 9th grade is really not that big a transition. It's not very difficult. She oftentimes said it was easy. She was in 9th grade there. My son was in 7th grade here. She went to bed earlier than him every night. So, you know, take that what you will. 10th grade is harder. Everybody says 10th grade is like 7th grade at Keeling, blah, 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 you know. But it is harder, and she's working hard. But she's, you know, it's going really well. I would say that the difference from our perspective, the difference in homework, in talking about like an amount of work that they do, the real difference is that at Lassa, a lot of the classes give you, okay, we have this project that's going to be due in 2 weeks. It has these pieces. They give a lot of class time to work on stuff together. You can really organize around your activities, how to balance out when to do that homework. Whereas opposed to my feeling here is a lot more like, you go to class, you get homework, it's due the next day. You go to class, you get homework, it's due the next day. Like this sort of like Chinese water torture kind of thing. Like, you know.
She didn't mean that.
I'm sorry. I'm editorializing today. We're tired. My son is very tired. But it's just it's a different approach to how the homework is done. You have a lot more control over organizing your time and when and how you're going to do that work. Like, if I know I'm going to have band on Tuesday night and a football game on Thursday night, and that's due next week, then Monday night I better work on this. Saturday I better work on this. That kind of thing. And you have a lot more flexibility and control in that. They do give a lot of time in class to work in groups, which I appreciate as well. That's about all I really want to say at this point.
Go real quick. We can ask one question, but I'd really just like to get everybody in.
I just want to say what time it starts.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
It starts at
Perfect.
8:15, it's out at 3:45, and there's an hour for lunch, and that's when clubs meet. So that's something kind of nice.
That is interesting.
And I will say that the lunch is a really huge deal. It's really exciting for the kids that come from Keeling. That
you go outside.
You feel like 20 minutes, they go outside, kids play frisbee and toss footballs on the front lawn, they go to the band hall, they go to club meetings at lunch. And it's a very, I don't know, sort of energizing and good balance time in the day. Lunch is really a big plus at Lassa.
All right, we're going to jump to Gabriel Estrada, who's going to talk to us about the global studies at Austin High.
Starts at 9 and ends at just to get it right out there, my son's a brilliant kid. He's an 11th grader there, but he's lazy. When we first looked at Keelan and came to the presentations, he looked at it and says, "No, this is not for me." My daughter, on the other hand, who's an 8th grader here, it's completely for her. But my son has found a home at Austin High, the Global Studies program, because it's allowed him to really touch into what he's good at. And he's very social. He loves to be around people. He communicates well with individuals. And he's a critical thinker. He likes to discuss politics. I push a lot of that on him as well. But the whole issue with him is that he's found this place, and Global Studies has been that place for him. His freshman year, they have a field trip every year, a big field trip. And the first year they went to Heifer International, which is in Arkansas. And so they spent, I think it was about almost a week there, and basically living in a different scenario, third world scenario, basically living off the land and trying to survive. And that was very influential for him to really start connecting with the world as a whole. And that's been carrying over. Last year they went to Costa Rica, spent a week there. Again, they went to, started looking at, I forget the name of the school, the Earth School, yeah, Earth University. And they got to really understand what was going on, and he connected again. That led to this past summer, actually, where he spent six long weeks, for my wife and I say, oh my gosh, in Bolivia. And he was completely off the grid, and we were like, oh my gosh. But it was a great thing. But this Global Studies program has allowed him to really think about beyond just his home and his Austin and everywhere else. It's a great program. The rigor is there. My son, he'll do the minimum, especially when it comes towards math and other things like that, because he'll get by. He'll do well at the last minute. That's why I get gray hairs, and my wife is just pulling hers in left and right. Checking grades. He's like, oh my God, look at your grades. I got it. It's okay. We'll take care of it. So that's my son. And so the Global Studies program is great because it is basically a school within the school. Austin High is huge, 2,000 students or so. And so the Global Studies program is small. They take most of their courses except for the elective. He's in orchestra, so it's been a great place for him because they're there for each other. They have to produce a lot of projects. They're freshman year, sophomore year as well, not so much this year. A lot more intense AP programming and getting ready for the test as well. So it's been a good fit for my son. We're anticipating what my daughter's going to do, and that's an option for her. She's looking at Lassa, she's looking at Macalum, she's looking at Austin High. Whereas before we were like, no, you won't go to Austin High, but she sees him and she says, yeah, I can do that and more. And I said, okay. So the Global Studies program has been a very good place, and I could expand upon it more, but it's a good place for me.
Do you have to apply to get into it? Or?
Yes, you do. You have to apply, and again, as was pointed out, we are in the Austin High attendance zone, so that helped. I forget the number they cap out at, I think 128 or something per grade level or something like that. So.
But you apply and then it's a lottery, right?
Yeah, once you apply,
Oh, really?
it's a lottery, and yeah, because everyone applies, so it's pretty tough, but it's how you write things down and get things in, and he's a good interviewer too, so I think that helps.
And they do on their website have a lot of information about the application process. When I was looking at all this other stuff, they have a lot of information available there.
I was just gonna say, I was in the office yesterday and the secretary said in the last few years, everyone who was waitlisted found a spot.
Oh, that's good to know.
And we also have,
I appreciate all of you all very much giving some of that. We have some parents out there, like Julie, I know you have a senior. If you have anything you'd like to add, or anyone who's been something, have something to add.
graduate, excuse me, I'm trying to only that.
I did just talk to my daughter who is a freshman in college, and she's had about a month of school. She went to Lassa, and she said, Lassa really prepared me for school. She's at UCLA, and really feels like she's at the top of her class. I will also tell you, I'm a sophomore there. My daughter and my son have different sides of the brain. My daughter's the liberal arts kid, my son is the math science kid, so I've seen both sides at Lassa. My third child here will not go to Lassa. So I'm very interested in these other programs. We already know that. So, I mean, I have all perspectives, so feel free to come talk to me about questions.
And everybody can do this when they get up. What
Did you stand up?
Yeah, sure. What kind of kid would you think would be not successful at Lassa or not successful with some of these programs? Kind of
If someone has a problem, like my youngest child, staying on task, or being a scattered person, that, I don't think they'll do well at Lassa.
But he's
Quite honestly.
Keeling.
But he's doing fine at Keeling, you know, with a lot of support at home. And teachers, he's doing fine. And, you know, creatively, he's doing great here. You know, he's had the option to be in the musical, which he probably wouldn't have had at his home school. So he's just a different kid than the other two. Well, they all three are different, yes.
Julie, do you have stats about Lassa? For example, how many are admitted, how many are not admitted, or something like that?
There's a few about Keeling on the
And I
back.
got more stats
Okay.
last night I gave some.
I think it was 45% of the student freshmen.
There's 45% of the whole student body there.
Yes.
Right, so the actual percentage every year.
Actually, I do have that. Someone texted me that last night. If you just have
There's
a
like
second.
974 kids there total.
Yeah. Okay,
For each grade.
accepted 330, 206, no. It looks like applied 330, 260
No,
accepted.
330 were offered admission and 261 showed up.
Ah, okay.
There were 648 applicants last year, I think.
Okay, so
It's on here.
Could you go through that one more time?
I would let the stars
Can you say that again, Sandra? Or somebody?
About half the kids who applied are admitted, and of the kids who are admitted, about 80 to 85% end up,
80 to 80% saying.
end up actually enrolling.
So
Like
that-
they offered
is that half
330.
the number for Keeling or in general for the whole school?
Whole school.
So what is the number for Keeling, the percentage that applied or admitted?
It's about the same.
It's on your
Is it the
sheet.
same?
It's on the sheet, yeah.
So about half the
No,
kids
it
who
just says
applied
the
are
number that
enrolled.
end up there, it
It's
didn't
not-
say the applied.
It's about 78% of Keeling that applied got accepted. It's not, that's different from what actually enrolled, but about 78% of the Keeling last year's incoming ninth grade class from Keeling was accepted.
Okay.
They don't all end up choosing to go there. They
Right.
apply to many programs.
Kristen?
I want to just come back to both these questions about who's going to succeed at which high school, because we have our daughter who's a senior at Lassa. She was here. It's been great for her. I can tell you, you know, an hour's worth of all the ways in which Lassa has been great for her, and she's totally thrived there. But our 8th grader, who's doing very well here, isn't sure at all that Lassa's the right fit for her, and we're not sure it is either. Like, that's why we're at this meeting, even though we've had such a great experience at Lassa. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about the culture of these high schools, because I think there's a very specific culture at Lassa, not just, you know, what they're doing academically in their electives. And, you know, Lassa is nerdy. My older daughter says, like, we're nerds among nerds here, Mommy, and she loves that.
They really embrace their nerdy.
And you know, I can give you this, funny, I just know this because I talked to a parent about McCallum, one of our neighbors whose kids in McCallum last weekend. She was trying to get, you know, her son would like to go there, and she was asking me about, we were trying to find out about McCallum. I said, well, here's a Lassa thing. Our daughter, who's a senior, has had the same boyfriend for 2 years. He's great, everything about him's great, you know, he's very clever, he's lovely with her, we like him a lot. And then she wore her hair different a couple of weeks ago. You know, he's probably never seen her in 2 years with her hair in any except one style. So I said, did Josh notice that you had your hair different? And she said, yeah, he said it was like a lunar eclipse. I'm like, that is awesome. You know, that's not for every kid, it's not for every kid, you know. So could you, people who've had kids at McCallum or at Anderson, I mean, talk about the culture of those
Would y'all
places?
mind just raising all this money quickly?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that with McCallum, because that's what I heard when my daughter was interested, and I was talking to so many parents about this, and everyone always talked about the culture at McCallum and how much they loved it, and I think the way it was described is very accepting of every kind of person. You know, if you go there are of course tons of artsy kids, tons of crazy hairdos, crazy outfits. And my daughter has really confirmed this. Everyone seems to have a place. There seems to be less of the kind of cliquishness, and so I would say accepting is I think a really good word.
Mark, do you want to go real quick about IB?
Sure. Well, I would say Anderson is probably the closest school that you will find in AISD, closest high school to a suburban high school. It is not like Westlake and Lake Travis, but it is more like Westlake and Lake Travis than any other high school. But I will tell you this, because you asked about culture. At least within the IB program, a lot of these kids seem to have stepped out of the Donna Reed show. The Donna Reed show, like a 50s TV show.
Pleasantville up there?
We just have not had any issues with any of my daughter or her friends.
Oh, like squeaky clean.
Yeah, maybe these kids should go to BYU or something for college. This is a true story. There's a birthday party for one of my daughter's friends, and she was going to get really busy with school, and they weren't going to be able to see each other. And Katie called us kind of at the last minute, and they wanted to sort of continue the party with the swim party at another friend's house. And we're pretty strict parents, and we're not like this sort of, just go off and do whatever you want. And we had some problems with that, but she's a good kid, so she came home and we talked to her about it and stuff, and finally we were kind of on a knife's edge, and I said, okay, but I don't exactly know where this other boy's house is, so I'm going to come with you to pick up your car, follow you over there, don't want you staying more than an hour, and then off to a friend's house to spend the night. And you text us, okay, we're all fine. I follow her over there, and I know where the house is, and she's going in, and I'm getting back in my car, and I hear, from where I grew up, I sort of expect, it's about midnight, there's a party at somebody's house. I'm looking for the keg in the front yard. I'm listening for something, and I hear noise. It's not as loud as I expected it to be, and I thought, is it? Yeah, these seniors in high school are playing Marco Polo. True story. And then my daughter comes walking up, and she saw this funny look on my face, and she said, yeah, we're playing Marco Polo because that's what we do.
Culture of Austin High, there's everything. You got it all. My son happens to be one of those individuals that he's the ACL type. And that's what Austin High, there's a big chunk of that. When ACL arrives Friday, half the school is at ACL. So, but there are so many different cultures there, and everything from West Austin to East Austin to South Austin, North Austin. It's a very diverse group. Yeah.
Can you stand up if you're going to ask your question?
No, sorry. Anyone whose kids are at Lassa, do you play sports? Do you play any of the, I heard a lot of kids talking last night about the swim team, but does anybody play basketball with the rest of the baseball school, or how is that factored into the homework load and all that?
Laura both have
Yes, my son plays basketball at Lassa, and this year he added cross country, so he started going at 5:30 in the morning.
It's horrible.
So as soon as he got his driver's license,
Horrible
he was
on
driving. Yeah, but he loved it. He's kept up with his work. The coaches really are good there. They're like, sports are extracurricular. That's what it's about. If it affects their schoolwork, pull back from the sports. And mostly
was it time management though?
it was
practice wise and all that?
Practice for basketball started yesterday, and he'll stay at school until 5:30 most days, and they have 2 games a week when the games start. They're on Tuesdays and Fridays. So, when they travel to Harker Heights or wherever, they do get back late. But the same thing happens for football.
Can I just say about the thing that's really nice about the sports at LBJ Lassa is that it's LBJ. You play for LBJ. So LBJ has about 970 kids. Lassa has about 970 kids. LBJ is the first floor. Lassa is the second floor. But they share like orchestra, band, different things like that. They share the library, cafeteria. So you're playing with LBJ kids. So it's sort of like Keeling, where we've got this
magnet neighborhood. So my son has made friends from LBJ and I've made mistakes and I've been really embarrassed, like thinking somebody was an LBJ versus a Lassa kid. You know, it's good to just have that open mind, and they're all LBJ kids.
So, for parents who have kids at Lassa, without hours of homework, like compared, so basically, my kid takes a million years to do her homework every single night. And so, it doesn't help me to say like, oh, there's less homework. If in a percentage of less homework, what would you say? There's not less.
It's not
Okay.
less, it's just different.
It's not gonna be any worse though. I've never known a kid that went to Keeling that said Lassa was worse. Well, no, I mean, but the experience, I mean, all the kids I've known have said either Lassa is easier than Keeling or it's the same.
No, but you know what they say at Lassa? You can say it, but they say that if you've gone to Keeling, you're fine. If you have not gone to Keeling, those kids who did not go to Keeling,
Oh, that's true.
weren't really prepared for
No,
Lassa.
that's true. And that's true even at like, I mean, the first week at Anderson, in my daughter's English class, they said write a 5-page paper. And all the Keeling kids were like, okay, fine. And the kids from Canyon Vista they were freaking out. They'd never written a 5-page paper ever. So ninth grade at Anderson was like 7th grade at Keeling for the Keeling kids.
I'm happy to respond. I should probably just give a little transparency that I'm a counselor at Lassa. So, but I have a sophomore there and I have an 8th grader here this year. And I guess I just want to address, because I see all the freshmen come in who struggle. I see all the freshmen who come in who do great. And for the most part, kids who come from Keeling are very well prepared. I would say the kids who struggle even from Keeling are the ones that struggle with time management, who procrastinate, or kind of cruise through here and didn't work real hard, didn't have to. That doesn't happen in high school. Okay, so that could be a real big wake-up call for kids to be like, hey, I always pulled A's and B's and I didn't have to work real hard. I didn't spend a lot of time on homework. It's going to be a big change. Okay, but then we work with those kids and those parents and say, let's talk about that. What does your evening look like? What else are you involved in? And we totally help them do that. I would say 9th grade is not a giant transition academically homework load-wise from middle school. 10th grade definitely steps up. Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a big jump up. But kids really do, and I would also say the kids who struggle are the kids who don't want to be there. So if their parents have made them go there, and I'm just going to be honest, because that's the first thing I'll ask a kid is, tell me about applying to Lassa and why you chose to come here. And if they say, my parents made me, that's a hard conversation. So be open. It really is about finding the right fit. It's the exact same way when we help kids look for their college search is, you can't make a kid be happy somewhere. They have to be willing to do the work. They will work harder than they ever will in their entire life, but it'll be worth it. And if they're willing to do that, there's more support than they'll ever be able to use, but they've got to want to do it. So I guess that's sort of the lesson.
Great. Thanks. I want to chime in. I know this council, although I need to be reminded of your name. The senior I have at McCallum is a transfer from Lassa. So I have dual experience, and all this talk about culture is exceptionally important. I am not a relaxed parent, but I learned by 8th grade that the kid needs to take the decision and own up to it. Although I made her apply to 2 other high schools, and she was accepted by all 3 with great excitement from all these schools, except for Lassa, I don't know. That doesn't transpire, but the other 2, I made her apply to McCallum. And the reason is, in Keeling, it was a great time when Ms. Rambert was here. In Keeling, she struggled a lot, not in terms of the academic content, but in time management. She is totally scattered. She is, she drags her feet, takes a million years to do homework, compared to what I have now in 6th grade. It's like, and they are 2 different people. In 6th grade, I said to my older daughter, I said, it looks like you need to change school. There's so much you can tell them how to allocate time, but after 2 years, you are, basically, this is the same pattern. So there's an amount of emotional resistance to that. In 6th grade, as I said, we said, can we visit other middle school options? And by that time, of course, it was too late, but this is toward the end of spring semester. But in 7th grade, there was a major chamber music coming to Keeling. You suddenly see her smile every day, and she loves school because she is in coaching, she plays chamber music through outreach. So that became a very important component in her life. So in 8th grade, I said, I realized that it's not so much you cannot enjoy school, it's just if it's all homework, you detest it. You need that music element, and you know. And so you need to consider that when considering high school. So I said Lassa is a great group, and I think she did fit very well with the culture, the kind of nerdiness, the kind of, everybody loves each other, really. They share this common mission almost. And, but very few people shares her passion for music. Going there. I mean, there are a lot of fantastic, actually some of AISD's best musicians are in Lassa. But it becomes increasingly clear that she wanted to do music, at least minor in music. And she would bring her cello, carry this big case to school, try to practice during lunchtime, and she couldn't because of all these other reasons. So in the end, she said, yeah, I'm going to Macallan. But she resisted Macallan the first time because she thought it was too too much, what's the word? Distraction. And she can't, there's that. When she, on shadow day, she saw things that she didn't want to see. It was a shock. It's like, so anyway, she's there now.
Did you say, is there a shadow day at Macallan?
There used to be, does anybody know? Not shadow, but I said you do need to.
The principal told me hands down he will not have shadow.
Okay, there you go, thank you.
Yeah, my daughter did spend some time in Macallan because I said you do need to take a look, and she did.
I have a question for you. Does she like it now?
I think she lives a better life than in Lassa, which is a lot of homework all the time, and she didn't want to do it. She felt she was fading on her music, and so she's doing better, yes.
Marie, and I apologize for the y'all, but this is going a little
Yeah,
late, but it
just-
seems like there's some good discussion
Yeah,
here.
just real quick, anyone have any advice on how to deal with the Keeling burnout syndrome? Because we went from I want to go to Lassa, and then now all of a sudden my son's in 8th grade and he's going, no way, we live about as far south in Austin as you can be by still being in Travis County, so. Yeah, well, when he was in 6th grade, he got on the bus at 5 after 6. This year and last year, it's about 6:30. So,
I'm gonna let you invite.
yes,
Go
it's,
ahead and if you feel comfortable speaking to that. She's shaking her head.
It's hard to know what to say. I mean, so my daughter definitely had that, and yes, she decided to go to Macallan, and it's all worked out fine. And she's, happy, and I think will be a productive member of society.
right now, he's kind of like, I don't even want to apply. That's kind of where we're at.
I don't know. I really feel strongly, in agreement with some of the things other people have said, that it needs to be the kid's choice, no matter, because they need to buy into it. I know that people may differ on that.
But I would also keep as many options open as long as possible. Go to the
good.
showcase,
That's
have
good.
him shadow, turn in the application, he can always say no.
That's
And
kind
the
of
worst
our
situation is to be in like February or March and going, I really now wish I had done,
That's true.
keep as many options open as possible and then make the decision that feels the best fit for, for the child.
Right.
And can I just say real quick, because I know we're gonna run out of time, and Ms. Malloy had asked me to, pass on that anybody, if you're thinking about applying to any of these programs and you are not in the Macallan feeder zone already, that you should, if that is your backup school, like that in your mind, you should apply for the tracking transfer to Macallan, no matter what, and then continue to pursue the other applications that you're interested in January.
January 6th.
And it's on the AISD website, and you can get the forms from Ms. Malloy, but that they will supersede that transfer later if you end up going to Lassa or IB or whatever, but you can't go back later and then go, oh, I wish I could do my tracking transfer.
That's a
So
really
Ms.
good piece of
Malloy's advice
information.
was, if you're thinking about that at all, to go ahead.
For example, if they didn't get into Lassa and they
Right.
say I want to go to McCallum
Right.
in March.
It's too late, yeah.
Okay.
So do you need that tracking transfer if you're just going to apply to the Fine Arts Academy, or, I mean, can they just apply to the Fine Arts
They
Academy?
can
without
apply just to
doing
the Fine Arts Academy, but
Okay.
again,
But
if
they
they
don't
should
get
not
that.
get in, you
They
can
can
do
still
the
get
tracking
McCallum and
transfer,
still have
yeah.
all the benefits of the Fine Arts
Right.
Academy, pretty much, okay.
Go ahead.
It does seem like, I have a son that's athletic and wants to continue in sports and plays the saxophone. And it does seem like those might be on a collision course. Is that an either or proposition at some point? Or
Sports
just-
and music?
Yes.
I have a friend at McCallum that her son chose to go to McCallum because he wanted to play basketball and also play an instrument, and he's very happy. Very athletic and very happy, and also plays an instrument.
So he's in the band and
Yes, and
he-
he.
So at McCallum, that can
Yes,
happen.
and at Lassa, he couldn't see it happening, so.
Do you have to be in marching band if you're in band? Is that a requirement?
No, if you're in the Fine Arts Academy, you do have to march. So my daughter elected not to march because she was playing volleyball. And she tried to do both, and although in theory it is possible, it's very difficult.
Does she still play an instrument?
Yes, so what happens when you don't march is you are in the concert band, which is the lowest band the whole first semester, and there's really not a whole lot going on. So
And
I think
will
you're a
say
little
they-
bit out of it.
They urge you to do the marching because you're really not a part of the group if you do the band without doing the marching.
But then in the
It's very-
spring, you participate fully in all the concert stuff, so it's a little bit of a trade-off.
What if you play a string instrument?
Orchestra?
That's different.
Do we have
You
any
don't
other
have to
questions?
My son plays in the orchestra and he's on the community.
Orchestra and baseball easy, marching band and sports, especially spring sports, sounds like not so easy.
Well, spring sports
Fall.
are easier.
Fall sports. Okay, I'll go to you and then to you, Kristen.
I just have a couple things to add about that culture at Anderson. My daughter's a sophomore there, and she's a swimmer, so she's probably at the same part of you right now. But it seems like the sports there are a big emphasis. I mean, she's going to do the IB program, and that sounds.
Although we suck at football.
Well, it's true, football, but I mean.
We've got great bells.
I mean, it seems like the band is a huge commitment. It seems like there's a big emphasis on, band, bells, sports. There's also, the academics is great, and socially it's been fine. And also, the one other thing I wanted to add about the IB is I believe if they go through the program, they get 24 college credits.
Depends on the school.
In Texas colleges.
Oh, okay,
I think that's.
it's kind of like, it depends.
And then it depends on the school. In
depends on-
Texas, it's.
And I'm going to try to learn. I've sort of been inspired. I realized when people were asking really specific questions, my son at Lassa is somewhat organizationally challenged, and he's doing fine, but like a lot of boys, he's organizationally challenged. If your kid wants to go to Lassa, don't discourage them just because they have organization issues. Lots of kids do. If they want to be, he wants to be there, he's doing fine, he's doing the work, and the counseling staff monitors. There's not going to be a kid that flunks out of Lassa that just because nobody cared. I mean they're on top of that. But because we've been paying a little more attention to him, I haven't been as focused as much on the specifics of things like how do they grade the IB test, because I figured as long as we're hitting all the marks, I'm just not going to worry about that as much. But I'm inspired to find out a little more about that. So like if you're really interested in that, ask me at a later meeting or something, and I'll tell you what I've learned.
Kristen's been waiting for a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead.
Well, I just want to be sure everybody's aware of some changes to the application process at Lassa. Last year, they started using the submissions test, and I've done a lot of research because it was an issue for my now sixth grader when she applied to Keeling. Usually when you take a test, they're going to transfer your raw score to a percentile based on how your score compares to a nationally normed sample. So for example, my daughter's raw score on the Keeling test earned her a 90th percentile. However, because Keeling at that time and Lassa chooses to rank raw scores of applicants, she got a 1 out of 5 on her, 1 out of 10 on her rubric. Okay, so on the Lassa rubric, if you have all A's, you get a 5. If you do well on your STAR and EFC, you get a 5. If you have good teacher recommendations, you get a 5. But if there's 600 applicants and your raw score is near the bottom, even if your raw score is like a 95th percentile, you'll get a 1. Okay? And they've capped it 10% of the applicants will get a 5. And all the way down to 60% of the kids who apply will get a 1 or a 2. And I'm just putting this out there because it's really, to me, as a trained test administrator, it's not a good way to do this. So I'm just letting you know, your kid might totally do well on the admission test, but if compared to others, applicants did not do so well, they will get a 1 or a 2 on that part of the application.
A huge weight on the test.
It puts a huge weight on the test. So I've complained
I actually
to.
kind of disagree with that, but I mean, I guess I can speak to part of it. So there's definitely a misconception. There are not a lot of 5s given actually in any category. That's kind of I don't want to casually say that, oh, if you have good grades, you get a 5. That's not necessarily accurate. The same with the STAR results. Even if you receive that commended, or what used to be commended, if you're the advanced academic, that's a 4 or a 5. So just even receiving that commended, that's sort of divided in half. So in order to receive a 5 on the standardized test, it has to be like even in the top half of the, I guess now it's advanced
It's
the
academic.
top 90%, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure that percentage, but it's not like if you get a commended, you get a 5. If you get a accepted, you get a 3. So there is a little more of a breakdown. The COGAT, which is not, it's been going on for a number of years. That's not new from last year. Applicants are compared to a pool of Lassa applicants, but again, not a lot of 1s, not a lot of 5s, and that's one piece of it. That's one section. Certainly, that doesn't necessarily pull a kid out of being the accepted range or add them in. So there's definitely, there are sections where maybe a student doesn't do well testing, but if they're solid in the other areas, that doesn't pull them out of being accepted.
So, just real quick, if a child doesn't have all 5s, or even all 5s and 4s, we shouldn't just, I mean, that doesn't mean that there's not a chance of them getting in.
Yeah, most kids don't have all 5s and 4s.
Okay.
So if there are,
oh my gosh, thank you.
yeah, so if there's one
Right.
section that, and sometimes kids just don't test well, or they don't, or if they're missing a section, or something like that, you know.
So don't be discouraged.
Don't be discouraged at all.
Rubric is incredible. I've looked at it and I was like, wow.
Yeah, so the rubric, your highest score could be like 25, lowest score could be 5. And the average person that you hire, the accepted are like 15 and above, or the person
And I don't know the exact numbers because I only am involved in a piece of that reading of the applicants. So I don't know the exact number, but I don't believe we've ever had a 25 score. Like, I don't think we've ever had a perfect score.
Well, that's encouraging.
It's rare for students to get, I don't even know, yeah, nobody gets all 5s. Like, that just doesn't happen.
The thing about the rubric, though, is that for the admissions test, it states that if you're in the bottom 40% of the applicant's raw scores, you will get a 1. So there has to be 40% are going to get a 1, right?
And I'm not sure if that's accurate. I'm not sure. And
Well,
I don't know.
that's what I read on the rubric, whereas the other sections, anybody can get a 5. Maybe not everybody will get a 5, but they're not limiting it to only 10% will get that.
I mean, I think something not specific, definitely talk to Ms. Crescendi.
I'm gonna have to,
Do
I
that.
apologize for
Do
this,
they-
we have a class that's coming in here and they're going to.
Do they look at what's going on?
Real quick, Tim has a little bit of information.
Oh, they don't.
Hey guys, real quick. Just some information. I am the KMag co-chair. I want to let you know that we are doing a fundraiser that helps